Welcome back everyone to the 112th and 113th episode of Unravel. These episodes will sadly have to be recapped rather than shown in full. Something strange happened to the previous two episodes, which caused both of them to have audio that sounds like this. With that explanation out of the way, let's discuss what happened in episode 112 and 113. At the beginning of episode 112, we tied up a few loose ends that were left in previous episodes. This episode would begin on the first day of a new month, which meant that the party would have to roll on the performance table of their guild hall. The party must roll the percentile dice and the amount of days that has passed in that month to see how the guild hall performed, allowing them to almost always add 31 to the total. Max made this roll, ending up on a 16, which created a total of 47. Because of this, the guild hall sadly didn't earn the party any profit, but they also didn't lose any money. A similar loose end from the downtime session some time ago was Zira, who paid to have the Nabasu's body stuffed, so she can put this fiend up for display. They acquired this body after being informed about the attack that they would suffer at the hands of the undead McLeod's brothers that keep coming back. They managed to prepare for this attack. The party was told that the brothers would get the help of this fiend, so in their preparation, the party gathered some holy water, which, when thrown onto a fiend before being killed, wouldn't allow for the creature to turn to dust and return to its home plane, but instead die permanently on the material plane. Due to the dangerous nature of working with the body of a fiend, the price of having this body taxidermied was pretty significant. The total cost eventually being set at 785 gold, which Zira now paid retroactively. Now we catch up with the party as they are setting up camp for the night, having traveled a few days into the cold Arctic wastes. While setting up her place to sleep, Zira hears the faint creaking of metal in the distance. Eventually, after a very long time of anticipation on her part, Zira finally spots her mechanical messenger bird returning to her after having spent quite a bit of time at her gnomish friend Rielin's place. It carries a satchel that slowed down its travel, and it has some clear signs of wear and tear from the journey. Opening up the satchel, Zira finds a letter from Rielin, finally answering her question she had posed back when the party was in conflict with the criminal organization, the Iron Syndicate, in Toptown outside of Coppermunda. He explained that he knows little of the trading routes between Coppermunda and the isolated gnomish city of Barbadoof. He does, however, mention that less and less immigrants from Coppermunda have been making their way there. Zira assumes this is likely because the party had successfully shut down the human trafficking operation that was run by the Iron Syndicate. Additionally, in the satchel, Zira finds 3 metal spikes, all marked with a color: purple, red, and blue. Rielin explains in his letter that these are anchors. Those anchors would allow Zira to instantly teleport her messenger bird to one of these anchors, so in the future, a response may take less time before it reaches her. Rielin writes that he still has the green-colored anchor at his house. Zira pockets the anchors, beginning to think about who she may hand the others to. Meanwhile, George anticipates the rise of a full moon and feels his lycanthropy is beginning to act up, and fears something dangerous may happen. He approaches their guide, Akiak, and asks if they may take the second watch together, to which Akiak agrees. The first watch, however, is taken by Angelina. Because the party is currently in the middle of Yeti territory, she can clearly make out the distant roars and yelps of Yeti packs. During her watch, she is surprised to spot a breathtaking display of color in the sky as she sees an aurora australis. These Arctic lights in the southern hemisphere display a wide array of colors, from greens to blues to warmer colors in red, oranges, and yellows. Eventually, Angie makes out a shape in these lights, the form of a majestic bird soaring through the sky, a phoenix almost. Angie questions the meaning of this visual. Is this something shown to her by the Dawnfather? As she ponders this, eventually her watch comes to an end. During the second watch, Akiak and George continue to hear the Yetis in the distance. George, this time, takes his watch unarmed and unarmored. During this watch, they spot distant lights. George has a good perception and almost seems to make out the shape of a distant castle. Akiak is confused by this, as no such castle is known in the region. This visage would eventually disappear before the end of their watch. Ignoring the distant lights, George explains his lycanthropy condition to Akiak, and requests him to subdue him if his wereboar form comes out, under the light of this night's full moon. He felt bad asking their new friends to help him, but he feared more hurting his older friends. Akiak agreed, and loaned a healing potion from Zira to ensure George's well-being if it did come to a fight. Feeling the full moon come to its apex, George cast Bless on himself in an attempt to resist the moon's influence. Requiring a DC 20 wisdom saving throw to do so, Max rolls, but fails as his total comes out to a 19. George transforms and loses all mental and physical control. He charges at Akiak in an attempt to spread his curse. Akiak prepared, and George unarmed and unarmored, this battle is resolved quickly. Akiak does not hold back against his werebore. With a number of successful shots with his heavy crossbow, Akiak has little issue subduing his cursed companion. George is luckily quickly stabilized with a healing potion. He asks Akiak not to mention this occurrence to the rest of the party, and Akiak agrees. They would, however, find little success the following morning, as they tried convincing their party members that they were attacked by Yetis in the night. Yet no evidence of a struggle between Yetis and them was anywhere to be found. The third watch this evening, helmed by Zira, passed uneventfully. The following day, after departing from their camp, the party spots a flock of birds circling above, something over the horizon. Akiak mentions that either something died there, or something is dying. The party finds already bloody track marks of a mammoth that came from the northeast. This mammoth's tracks eventually get joined by the tracks of a pack of Yetis. At the end of this trail, the party finds a mammoth carcass being eaten by seagulls. These birds likely came from the nearby Great River that marks the end of the Yeti's territory. The party realizes that this is the mammoth from a few days prior, having succumbed to its wounds. The Yetis were nowhere to be found, but their tracks lead away from their meal before they had finished it. The party found a track of a group of Loxodon that must have begun to hunt these Yetis. The group decides to follow these tracks as they tread further south. Eventually, the party stumbled upon the aftermath of a battle where 4 Loxodon hunters slew a pack of Yeti twice their size. Both sides, however, had succumbed to their wounds. Searching among the body, the party finds one of the Loxodon hunters still clinging to life. His wounds too severe to be healed, however, it is clear that this hunter is not long for this world. He tells Akiak that killing this pack of Yetis that killed his clan was his final labor, and that now he only wished for the mercy of a blade, so he may join his clan in the Snow Mother's great herd. Akiak and the hunters say their goodbyes. Akiak tells the hunter to walk with the Snow Mother, him responding with, "And may you as well. I will see you on the other side," before Akiak stabs him in the heart. The party asks Akiak to the nature of the Snow Mother and the labor that this hunter talked about. Akiak explains that the Loxodon believe that those who live according to her values may walk with the Snow Mother in her great herd of mammoths in the afterlife. Akiak explains that some Loxodon are selected by the Snow Mother and are tasked with labors for them to complete. When the party asks about Akiak and if he had gotten any labors, he admits that he has completed 3 so far and is currently working on his 4th. Akiak explains that if a Loxodon completes 5 labors, he earns the title of Frostwalker, a highly respected title in their society. Satisfied, the party continues on their journey, but not before burning the bodies of the hunters. The corpses of the Yetis are destroyed by Angie with her fire magic. During the night of the 4th to the 5th day, the party continues to hear Yeti calls in the distance. The only eventful watch that night is Angie's. During her watch, she spots, at the last second, a great herd of creatures approaching their camp. Knowing that their camp would get trampled, and so would all the people in it, Angie decided to create a barrier of flame between the herd and their camp. Casting a wall of fire, she protects their camp from the herd of giant elk that splits in 2 as they pass the party's camp. The 5th day starts off badly. A heavy winter storm sets in, and the party must succeed on a skill challenge to make sure that they don't lose a day of travel. They eventually manage to succeed through George's successful perception, Akiak's large body blocking almost all of the wind for the party members behind him, and Angie's spellcasting, allowing dancing lights to give them some more visibility in the dense snow. George spots a large wolf that seems to stalk the party for a few hours before leaving. Akiak mentions that this creature is likely a winter wolf, an arctic wolf the size of a horse that has some minor magical abilities. In the depths of the snowstorm, out of nowhere, suddenly, the party is ambushed by a group of Yeti who hid themselves in the storm. One Yeti, larger than any other, casts an ice storm spell from a simple staff he carries, and speaks to the party in Giant.
"You dare enter our lands without paying tribute? A payment is due in blood."
The party fights a hard battle in disadvantageous terrain. Many of their less experienced travel companions almost fall in this battle, but a successful casting of Mass Cure Wounds brings them back to their feet. This is the first time the party really sees Akiak in action, and likewise the other way around. Akiak manages to deal significant damage to many of their enemies as he expertly wields his dwarven ballista that functions as his crossbow. Eventually, the Yetis begin to fall one by one, and the tide of battle seems to turn. Some of the Yetis may have thought about retreating, but never got the chance to do so. George summoned a monstrous firestorm that burned a good number of them. Angie immolated one Yeti, which turned to ash as it desperately tried to pat out the flames. She then turned her attention to the larger Yeti, hitting it with a mind sliver before forcing it to try and dodge her 7th level disintegration spell. Because of the reducing effect of mind sliver, the grand total of the saving throw came to a 0. Angie disintegrated a hole through the Yeti's chest, killing it instantly. The party healed up and retrieved the Yeti's simple staff, before setting out into the snowstorm to see what the rest of this day may bring them. This is where episode 112 ends, and where 113 picks up. The party once more trudged away through heavy snowfall. Nearing the end of daylight, George spotted once again the silhouette of a large wolf through the snow. A low droning noise shook the party. Akiak realized too late what this actually was, the horn of a frost giant attack. In the heavy snowfall, the party was attacked by 2 winter wolves, white wolves the size of horses, and a multi-headed frost giantess atop the back of a charging mammoth. Chera reacted quickly, entering her rage and charging into the snowstorm at the frost giant, but out of sight of the party. The wolves released breaths of freezing cold air upon the party, further escalating the wounds the group received during the fight with the Yetis. While the party did battle with the winter wolves, Chera fought the now raging frost giantess, who slashed down at Chera from the back of her mammoth. With incredible strength, Chera managed to knock the frost giantess off of the mammoth and take control of it in her stead. The party came in to aid Chera, eventually striking down the giant. Failing to control the mammoth properly, the party chose to set it free and allowed it to venture off into the white plains beyond the blizzard. In the battle's aftermath, the party collected the giant's stomach. Akiak explained that his enchanted ballista was created with the stomach of a frost giant. For in the future, the party has collected an item that could function as the material component for a frost-based magical item. On the 6th day of travel, the blizzard died down, opening up the skies for fairer weather and allowing the group to stride forth without the visibility detriment the blizzard had bestowed upon them. During the day, the party encountered a fire elemental dwarf, an Azer. Zira spoke with him in Primordial and found out that he got lost in his home plane and somehow ended up here. He asked the party which direction the City of Brass was, but the party informed the Azer that the City of Brass lies on a different plane of existence altogether, the Fire Elemental plane. If the Azer had stayed, his flame would eventually extinguish and he would pass. Looking at what they had available to them, the party sought for a way to send this Azer back home. Lacking a tuning fork that would allow the party to plane shift him back home, George did realize he had a scroll of banishment with him. After explaining this plan to the Azer, he gave them their thanks and told them that if they would ever find themselves in the City of Brass, they would have a friend. George then cast banishment on him, and the Azer was sent back to his home plane. Eventually, their travel day concluded, as they finally spotted the great river in the distance, the river that marked the edge of the Yeti territory. This is where they set up their camp. During the final watch of that night, Akiak spots a large figure approaching their camp. When it comes closer, it is revealed that this figure is Tanara, the tall human huntress that Elkian had an appointment with after introducing Akiak to the party back in Yalta. Behind her, she dragged a large sled with the body of a large decapitated male walrus, a creature that is quite prevalent in and around the river, which the party was planning to hunt and use for rations. Akiak greets her, and the two awkwardly spend the end of Akiak's watch in silence around the campfire. When the party woke the following morning, Tanara explained to the party that she cares little for what Elkian told her. If the party would be traveling through her territory, she would determine their worth herself. She offered the party the walrus for its meat and fat if she is allowed to challenge one of their members to a duel. The party agrees, and she examines each of the party's members to find her match. She spots Clay, the Zorn, and scuffs. A rock. Looking the smith Gareth up and down, she says, "You're too old." She then turns to Hanev, the party's hireling. "Too young." She looks Angie in her eyes and states, "There's a fire behind your eyes, but little martial prowess." She almost ignores Akiak as she says, "I know you. You have little surprise left for me." She glances at George but disregards him as she mentions, "A dwarf in a suit of steel. Original. I'm not looking for a coward." Looking down at Zero, she goes, "You brought a child, and a kobold at that. I'm impressed you're not dead yet." Finally, she turns her attention to Chera. "Fists of steel. Yeah, you'll do." Chera faces off against Tanara in a duel, where they agreed to approach their breaking point halfway. During this duel, a set of dueling homebrew rules were used that forced both participants to re-roll initiative each round, and each time they dealt damage beyond a certain threshold, they could perform a special move that would disadvantage the other. The duel kicked off, with Chera dashing at and beyond Tanara, striking her with many powerful blows. Doing so, she managed to deal enough damage to stun Tanara. Chera followed that round with another impressive round of attacks before Tanara got to move. Hurt, but not out of the fight yet, Tanara retaliates with attacks with her seemingly magical hand axes. Similar to Chera, she dealt a significant enough amount of damage to stun her. When Tanara's second round was over, Chera had reached her halfway mark and yielded the fight. Impressed, however, Tanara gifted them the walrus's body and bid them goodbye before taking off into the wilderness once more. The party packed up their camp and continued their journey. They arrive at the wide river, rocky shores flanking either side of it. On these shores, they spot bulky bodies, long whiskers, and very long tusks of the walruses that claimed the river as their home. The river itself was 1 kilometer, or 3,300 feet wide. The party used a combination of casting the fly spell, people hopping into the portable hole, and the flying carpet to get everybody across. Ikiak sat on Bosco as the flying polar bear carried him across the water. When looking down into it, the party saw walruses jumping back onto the land as a 20-foot long sea serpent snaked its way through the river. Glad they didn't have to face that, the party landed on the opposite side of the river, ready to continue their journey. Next time, we pick up episode 114 on the river's edge. Hopefully the audio issue has been resolved and we can all enjoy the episode in full. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again in the next episode. Goodbye!